All right, let's bring in former White House advisor to President Bush, Brian Hook, and Democratic strategist Richard Goodstein. Guys, I don't even know where to be. I don't know where to begin. Okay, let's first tackle the burqa comment. Brian, to you first. Is this going to hurt Trump?
You know, historically, we try not to view American foreign policy through the lens of the burqa. This is a very strange comment to be made when we're talking about a real crisis in the Middle East. It makes him in that entertainer column and less in the commander-in-chief column.
Well, Richard, normally, I think we'd be looking at a comment like that and saying, gosh, every controversial comment he makes, he seems to go up in the polls. But now we're talking about him losing ground in Iowa again to Dr. Carson. Are things starting to change here?
Look, they're changing in a pretty fundamental way in this regard. Trump's whole calling card, incidentally, so many of his comments are untethered from reality. It makes me think he has a political death wish. But his calling card is, I'm a winner. If he loses, in his book, he's a loser. And there's nothing worse than being a loser to Donald Trump. So he better turn that around in Iowa, because he can't keep, yes, he's ahead in all these other states. I understand that. But, and incidentally, Ben Carson is the Chauncey Gardner of this race, right? I don't know, I'm dating myself from the movie Being There, but he says all these inane things and people impute to it common sense when it's, for the most part, idiocy. If I was a Republican, I'd be scared to death. Or frankly, somebody on Wall Street, that a major political party could nominate either of these two guys. It's scary.
But Brian, it's hard to really decide where to go from here, because it does seem like things are changing now. But at the same time, it seems like the establishment has been trying to figure out what to do with Donald Trump. But Donald Trump, responding to Richard's comments, has made it clear that he's not going to lose. He has made it clear that the second he's dropping enough in the polls, or it looks like he doesn't have a shot at winning the GOP primary, he said he's out of the race. He's made that very clear. So what naturally happens next?
We have about a little less than 100 days until the Iowa caucuses, and that's a long time in presidential politics. Trump is now down 5 points in that Monmouth poll since the last one. So we are seeing Trump lose altitude, and I think that because we've got a few months left now, there's plenty of time for this race to move around. I do expect that you're going to see continual movement, and it's probably going to trend more in the establishment direction.
Can I raise an issue, though, gentlemen? And Richard, I know he's dying to make fun of me because I poo-pooed when he said that.
Thank you.
He said Joe Biden was not going to run for president, and I was like, whoa, 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 and well, he's not. With Iowa, and to the good people of Iowa, how relevant are the caucuses, particularly with the Republicans? You look back, it was Rick Santorum and Mike Huckabee were the last two winners, and they, well, were not the nominee.
Correct. Let's Dagen. So you make a good point. There's even a different point, which is at this point 4 years ago, and I checked yesterday, an October 30th, 2011 poll, Herman Cain was in first, Mitt Romney was second, Rick Santorum, who ultimately won, was at 5%. So all this kind of bloviation about where the polls are, not just us, but everybody, is a bit much. And I think people have to take it into some perspective. But you make the doubly good point, which is Iowa's not been kind of a precursor of how somebody's going to do down the road. But again, for Trump, when your calling card is I'm a winner, and if you lose, that changes everything in people's eyes.
So can I jump in here? That what struck me about these latest polls is that Ted Cruz is moving up. I want to hear both of you what you have to say about Ted Cruz and whether he's ready to make his move and whether such a move is sustainable.
Well,
Brian.
Senator Cruz has been hanging back and taking a very kind of slow and steady approach to the campaign. And somebody like Senator Cruz could play very well in Iowa, but then when you see the other states, that follow New Hampshire, South Carolina, and down the line, it gets a little trickier. But
yeah, I would actually disagree a little bit, Brian. Can I, if I don't mind? I predicted on your air, Sandra, with Maria, probably 6 weeks ago, that Cruz was the one to keep your eye on in this regard. I predict that Trump and Carson will crater, and I think Cruz has a good shot at gutting kind of the evangelicals, the libertarians.
Okay, so
when Rand Paul goes away.
if you're predicting that Dr. Carson will crater, we've heard your views on Trump. I'm going to force you to tell me, why is Dr. Carson gaining so much in the polls right now?
Right. So people say, well, there's this whole outsider thing. That's just among Republicans, right? The Democrats aren't showing any affection for outsiders. And I think it's the same reason the Tea Party people are so angry with Congress. They're living kind of almost in an alternate reality that somehow or other, a guy like Carson, they just want to think that somehow there's something pure about him that's going to fix everything. It's again, untethered from reality. But that would be my explanation for why Carson has this boom right now, because people just want to believe in those caucuses out there.
Richard, the Democrats are showing quite a bit of affection in terms of money, at least, to
Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, that's a socialist. He's a bit of an outside the mainstream in Washington.
No question.
Brian, last word to you.
Yeah, you're going to see continual movement around here. I also think you're going to see Ben Carson's numbers change probably quite a lot between now and when the first vote is cast in the Iowa caucuses.
All right, good stuff. Brian Cook and Richard Goodstein, thanks.
Oh,
Thank
and
you.
I just quickly will point out that Trump referred to the media as scum and horrible people, so that made me feel good.
But meanwhile, we spend every segment talking about
exactly.
the guy.
So where would he be without
we love what he's doing for our ratings.
The horrible
right?
scum that we are.